Hey everybody, welcome back, and we are taking a look at the iPhone 7, a device that Apple released that kind of changed things up. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the Apple iPhone 7, and when this device released, it was a phone that Apple pretty much touted to say was daring to be different and brave to make the changes. And those we'll talk about in this video a little bit. But for a device that was released out in 2016, and how does it fare off in 2024? And I will say this though, that if you didn't do a battery swap or anything like that, you're definitely going to be feeling the pinch of battery, which is kind of the reason why that I didn't take this device on the morning with me or to do anything of that such, because the battery is not really going to make it through a day. However, if you're talking about, iOS 15 and how it's functioning on here, it's functioning just fine. However, you can see the dateness of this device. Scrolling through things, and when you're starting to pick up speed and you're scrolling, you can see the jittery and jank start to happen in the scroll feed, and it's just absolutely crazy on just how that looks. But it's to be expected. Okay, it's a much older device. It's not something that's 5 years old. It's beyond 5 years old, so you expect this type of thing as technology eventually becomes obsolete, and in this case it is right around that edge. Never got iOS 16, and pretty soon app compatibility is going to be a problem, and therefore it's just going to be a nice little throwback nostalgic device to pick up in hand and just kind of play around with, especially now with the iPhone SE, the new one coming up, completely ditches this form factor and goes in with what we already see with iPhones, with the Face ID and the notch and all that. So the whole Touch ID is going to be a thing of the past. Now with this device, it's got the Apple A10 Fusion chip, 2 GB of RAM, and I believe this model here that I have is the 128. This was the Verizon model, and I do have another iPhone 7, which is a T-Mobile model, and that one I believe is 32 gigs of internal storage. So being able to use this small display, there's a 4.7-inch display. You got the Touch ID, but not the physical buttons. Actually, it's acts like a physical button, but it's not. It's got cool things going for it, and what Apple said that they were brave enough to do, removing the headphone jack, was one of the things that sparked controversy if we were ready to be all in on wireless or if we still needed wired. I could tell you guys that the iPhone 7, for its time, it was a great device. And it is fun to use now, but that's probably the only thing I can say that's good about it, is that it's fun to use. However, if you were to rely on this as a daily driver device, and you may not be too happy with it, as it is going to be lacking certain things that you may want or need today when it comes to a smartphone. You could definitely use this as a backup, like iPod or something, to play music in your vehicle or just to watch, media content on it. But, with a 1900 milliamp hour battery, you're not going to get too far with that. Overall, this is a pretty solid phone for its time, but in today, it won't really hold up against today's devices.